Welcome to today's interview. I brought on Molly McGrath. Molly, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Give the listeners a little background. Where do you live and what do you do?
Yeah, I live in a town called Parker, Colorado, and for 22 years now, I have been a coach. My company is Hiring and Empowering Solutions. We have VIP services for staffing for our niches, working with law firms, small solo law firms. So yeah, I've also written 3 books, and we have a podcast, Hiring and Empowering Solutions.
And we've talked previously, but give a little background, your experience with energy and law of attraction and how thoughts become things.
Yes. So I work with attorneys, so it's very much an intellect, masculine driven industry by and large, working with one of the top intellects in the country. And through that process of 22 years with working with them, I realized that everything was very much about KPIs, key performance indicators, measuring revenue, conversions, things of that nature, very corporate and very business type measurements. And I think it was about 10 years ago now, where I was first introduced to law of attraction, 15 years ago when I was first introduced to Think and Grow Rich and Tony Robbins, etc. And I was so deeply curious about this because by and large, as an industry, attorneys are not very conscious driven. And I dove into that and started really playing with energy and started implementing it on myself. At that time, I also owned 2 other companies and started implementing it in the higher level of our organization and started seeing massive results in regards to managing your mindset and your intentionality. And 3 years ago, I went and became certified as a Reiki master.
And for anyone who's newer to Reiki, I'm a little familiar with it, but what is
Yeah.
Reiki?
It's about managing your energy. So there's many different practices. People think it's very woo-woo energy healing, like, oh boy, that it's too new agey. But there's so many practices that you can put in there that complements the conscious modalities such as law of attraction, etc. So Reiki is about managing your energy and how you can be in full control of doing that before you walk into a presentation, a conversation. There's many different terminologies and tools in there that you can use, such as setting the stage of a relationship before you walk in and aligning that with your mindset and manifesting the outcome of it. It is extraordinary practice. It's coupled with the law of attraction.
And is that what the train your brain work is?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
It's really a
Can you
go
like
ahead.
dive in and just peel that apart? What does that mean to be aware of your energy and to manifest and have ideas of how you want the relationship or presentation to go, and then that it does?
Yeah, I love that. So, you and I were speaking before we recorded today how entrepreneurs as a whole have a lot of imposter syndrome and or expect the worst outcome, things of that nature based on their previous experience. So I'll give you a tool example, for example, that I teach my clients in regards to, it's called the relationship bubble. So it's about how to, before you're so I'm walking into a presentation, my goal is to close 50% of the room or whatever it might be. And typically, if you don't spend time, and you and I talked about this, training your brain and managing your mindset is probably the hardest workout I have ever had to do, and it's very consistent and constant. So the part of Reiki and aligning that with law of attraction and all the Think and Grow Rich, etc., is to be very active and to do visualization before you go in. So you think of this premise where you can take the worst case scenario that I'm going to show up on stage, I'm going to be a total flop, they're going to figure out that I'm a fraud, and it's going to be a disaster. No one's going to like me, and no one's going to buy from me, and I'm not going to make sense. I'm going to forget my speech, whatever. You put all the worst case outcomes right there in the first bubble. And then you take another bubble next to it and you put the best case scenario up there. And then you say, I'm going to rock it. Everyone's going to be laugh. I'm going to engage with the audience right away. And everyone's going to be flocking to the back of the room to engage with me, hire with me, book a consultation, whatever your call to action is there. And you take the worst case scenario. So a lot of times we're taught to just push that aside, and don't pay attention to it. But it's like a beach ball in a pool. It's going to pop its head back up. And usually at the most inappropriate time. So the whole premise of that is to acknowledge it and to name it and to put all the worst case things that could happen into that one bubble, and then take all the best things that could happen and put it into the second bubble, and then visualizing them, coming them and blending together. And that center in between is like that holy sacred ground where the two of them tend to merge. And then you start to visualize your best outcome that you want out of there. And just eradicating all of that worst case scenario, naming it, and then getting it out of your body, getting it out of your mind immediately, and coupling that with the best case scenario. It's just amazing how when you start to ground in that and then visualize what you want to happen. And then I have my clients just let the energy do the work. And for you, just really anchoring into, it's not about you when you get on that stage or you walk into that relationship, or whether you're firing an employee, whatever it might be, it's not about you. You got to detach from the outcome, and you just have to walk into that and being the best version of you, and to be in service with getting that energy out of your body.
I want to go back to this bubble because I love that scenario and the visual you gave, and I hadn't heard it described like that before. But I see the power of that being you're getting all the negative narrative out, all the fears, the worry, the doubt out, so that you can see it and kind of be like, that's ridiculous. Because then you can look at the positive bubble that I'm going to rock it, they're going to love me, I'm going to get new clients, or whatever the call to action is. And the beach ball example is the whole whatever you resist persists. So if you don't get the negative narrative out, it's still bubbling up inside of you. So is that the point of the exercise, is to get it out so you can observe, witness, and be like, oh, that's interesting. But then to focus on ultimately what you do want.
Yeah, it is. And it's almost like, you lock arms with fear, anxiety, worry, whatever that emotion that's coming up, or you just kind of lock arms and like, okay, let's go. You serve, I see you, I hear you, I'm naming it, but this is the outcome that I'm choosing to be, in the essence that I want to be when I show up on stage, because they're both present and they're both very real. So a lot of times I think what we do as humans and as entrepreneurs is we judge ourselves so much. You judge yourself for feeling nervous, or for feeling anxious, or feeling scared, or whatever it is that's come up. And in my experience and in my training and the law of attraction and all that, Reiki, is that's really what keeps you paralyzed and really shoots yourself in the foot, so to speak. Is it's not that you have these negative emotions, we all have them, or that you have these disempowering beliefs or emotions. It's the judging that keeps you stuck in it. And it's a judging that will come out of your mouth and out of your essence and out of your energy, versus just naming it, recognizing it, and be like, oh, all right, there you are. I got it. Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous, but my nervousness, I'm going to take that and transform it into, I'm going to show up as the best version of me. I'm going to do the best job that I possibly can. And I've seen it happen again with my clients in the 22 years of coaching, when they're like, it's a total disaster. I'm like, tell me what your preparation was before you went on stage. Everyone's worried about their speech or PowerPoint presentation, their messaging, all that. But tell me what you were thinking and feeling and believing before that. And 9 out of 10 times people are like, I knew it. I knew that was going to happen. I'm like, well, yeah, because you manifested it.
Yeah, you planted the seed.
You planted the seed. And in the train your brain work, what I love about it is they say, find a matchmaker for your negative thoughts. They're not going to go away, and don't judge yourself about it. But if you can just sit there for like 20 seconds or a minute or 2 minutes, whatever it takes for you to just feel it, name it, and then it dissipates and it releases. Then you have time to put, some positive thoughts on that. I'm sure you probably heard Tony Robbins say a million times, you could sit in your garden and stare at your weeds all day and sit there in namaste pose and say, I don't have weeds, I don't have weeds, I don't have weeds, but they're going to pop back up. You have to get into that dirt and pull them out by the root and bring them to light. And then from there is a way that you can till it into something positive.
Yes. Okay, so the question on that, because I've heard this a million times, and I think it's a lot easier said than done, how to detach from the outcome.
Yes, it's so hard to do.
Right?
Yeah, I'm constantly working on that before I walk into. I think the way that for me this is what works in regards to detaching from the outcome is when you spend some time prepping. We'll spend time all day long getting our hair, our makeup, our outfits, and our brochures all perfect and great, but we don't give the most important tool, which is our brain, which is our energy, that proper time to quote unquote get ready. So for me, in detaching from the outcome is going through that practice of putting it into worst case scenario, putting it into best case scenario, and then just allowing those two to kind of mold together. And then just have some mantras that I say to myself before I go in there, like, this isn't about me, it's about me being of service to the other person. It's about me communicating what makes me different in the marketplace. So if it's a sales call or it's a presentation or what have you, it's about me getting deeply, deeply curious to hear what is, keeping them up at 2:00 in the morning, what their greatest fears are. And it's about shifting it from about you into about the other person, and how you can get really still in the power of the pause, get deeply curious, and then get really present in that first and foremost before you go into it. And just really clearing your mind. For me, I had a podcast interview yesterday, and we were talking about how most people can't feel their bodies. Like when you talk about, okay, where do you feel this energy in your body, whether it's anxiety or fear or what have you? And most people have been taught to stay in their heads. So the practice of really anchoring and getting into your body before you even walk into there, and getting out of your head. Because when you're in your head, you're not present and you're not listening, and you're always thinking about the solution. And when you're always thinking about the solution, there's no way that you can detach from the outcome.
Or always what to say next. So you're not even present, you're not even listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That shifted everything for me when I'm like, I really, if the person hires me, works with me, what have you, I'm not deeply curious and interested in that. What I am deeply curious and interested in is for me to be fully present and for me to shine the best essence of who I am. And if I can do that, then the outcome will come. And even if the outcome is I don't get hired, or the outcome is that they don't want to work with me, I'm okay with that, because I know energetically I am showing up and I'm showing a mirror to who I want to work with. And if I don't resonate with someone, then they're doing me a favor. What's it saying is rejection is protection. So just really anchoring into that rejection is protection, and having full faith in that.
I actually heard this, and whether it's relationships, a job, whatever, I like the saying, rejection is simply redirection.
Oh, I love
It's
that.
like, it wasn't meant to work out. And then you always know in hindsight that, oh, thank goodness that I didn't get that job, because then I got this way better. Or thank goodness it fell through that relationship, because then I got to meet this person. So yeah, rejection is redirection.
Yes, I love it. And you always feel that in your body too, right? If you have a client that you're like, oh, I need this check, or I need what have you, and you can feel it once you drop into your body. And you're like, another thing that helps me is paying attention to where I'm abandoning myself, and where I'm abandoning my business models, and I'm abandoning my personal core values, because there's signs along the way if you're present, and you can't be present to that and you can't be present to the outcome at the same time. They're impossible. Man cannot serve two masters.
Okay, another question on that note about the outcome. Is that also when, like, I've found myself being conditional. If this happens, then I'll be happy. Or do you believe if I could detach from the outcome, the conditions would fall away too?
Yes, I do. I mean, it goes back to that saying of be, do, have. If I be this, most people live their life of have, do, be. If I have this, then I can do this, and then I'll be this.
Ah,
It's more so if I show up in a truly in my essence, in my light, who I am, with disconnection from the outcome, and I'm not abandoning myself or my boundaries. And again, this is the hardest workout you will ever do with your brain, your mindset. Like, you have to operate like you have the $1 million in the bank account. You have to operate like you have the swimsuit model body, whatever it is that you want. You have to operate like you have the love of your life before you go out on that date, or whatever it is, and spend time manifesting that, training your brain and really aligning with that. And then that allows you to show up as your best self. So you're not even focusing on, the conditions at all,
yeah,
because the conditions make it about the other person. If you can focus on you and what your values are, what your healthy boundaries are, then, and you're really clear on that, and you're present in the moment, and then you're able to detach from the outcome. When you walk out of that situation, conversation, relationship, whatever it is, then you have a time for self-reflection. And then but if you're walking in with attachment and you're walking in with conditions, you'll never get to the truth of the matter anyways, because you have all this noise going on in your head.
yeah. So what that makes me think, what you're saying, this whole train the brain work, is if you're rehearsing and you're already living and believing that the outcome has already happened, then the doubt falls away, the insecurity, the thoughts of the imposter syndrome, all that falls away because you let that, quote, the negative bubble disappear, because you're already rehearsing and living as though it already is, so it must. Is that true?
It is. I think so. I get up every morning and I own my morning. I follow the Breakfast of Champions of Tony Robbins. And it doesn't matter what I have on deck or what I have on my calendar for the day. I don't spend any time in my head preparing for it anymore, because I spend the morning, walking and doing my walking meditation, doing my manifestation, listening to an Abraham Hicks. Every single morning I walk 5 miles with my dogs, and I'm training my brain through that time.
Yeah.
And then when I get to the office, or I start to navigate and tackle my day, I'm detached, and I will say a little mantra to myself, like before I do my work, before I walk into, say, this podcast, and about 5 or 10 minutes before, I'll just say, "You universe, go in before me."
Yes.
And that's what I just say. And then it's my job. And I'll say, help me show up as the best version of me. And that's my work that I do. So I don't spend, and again, this has been almost 8 years of me working and training on this consistently, constantly throughout the day. I'll know when I'm out of alignment based on how I feel. And if I start to feel worried, I start to panic. If I start to be attached to outcome, I will say, okay, get back in the vortex, get back in alignment. It takes 17 seconds to get there. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling nervous. I'm feeling where, oh, I'm out of alignment.
Yep.
Get back in alignment. Get back in alignment. You're not in charge. The universe is in charge. Your job is to be present and to show up like a beacon of light. That's it. You're trying to manipulate this. You're trying to control this. Your job is to get back into alignment and to show up wholly, fully as you.
I love that. And what you shared is, you're right. It's consistent work. You can't do this one
Oh,
time. And a lot of
mm-mm.
people, when you talk energy and manifesting and law of attraction, think of it as woo woo. How can we debunk woo woo?
You know, I've heard that all the time, about woo woo. It's less and less, which is really exciting right now. But, here's the deal. You get to choose how you want to operate. So from my experience, if you don't want to take self-responsibility for your energy, your mindset, your emotions, and how you feel, you'll take your car to the service to get a checkup. It's almost like doing that checkup uh, on yourself and how you're feeling and how you're showing up. So if you believe that that's woo woo, your other option is just to show up like a victim and react to whatever's being handed to you all day, which is great because then you don't have to take any responsibility and you could point the finger at, well, this didn't work out because of that person or what have you. But the ultimate outcome of that is not, then you just don't feel like you're in full control to have what you want in your life. So I say it's fine if you want to believe that it's woo woo to some regard, but then it's that definition of insanity of getting the same results over and over again and expecting, different results. So it's not woo woo. There's so much science behind it. You can study endless and more you see it showing up all over. Thank God for social media, where there's finally a platform for a lot of this manifestation, law of attraction, training your brain, mindset work. Absolutely. But I think personally that it's a cop out of not having to be responsible for doing the work. It's like going to the gym or servicing any of your appliances or your vehicles. And there it takes tremendous amount of courage, because then now you're always in active choice, and then you're not just a victim or responding to whatever the world's throwing at you. And once you make that decision to say, okay, I am a co-creator in all this, and I am going to be very conscious in the results that I want. I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to make $10,000 a month next month. I want to get engaged by 2 clients, whatever it is. Once you have that clarity, we're all about strategy. People write checks all day long for blueprints, for strategies, for people to tell them what to do, but it will never, ever work out if you're not managing your mindset and your energy going into it.
You know what? It made me think how important it is also to have people around you that can call you out. Because literally just yesterday, I was golfing with my neighbor. We were just on the putting green, hitting balls around, just something to do. And so I'm there to go hit the ball. And in the distance, I hear somebody yell, 6 feet. And then, for COVID. And then, it was a bit windy yesterday. And then I hit the ball and it was a terrible shot. And I was like, well, that guy yelled 6 feet and it's windy. I can blame the guy in the distance and I can blame the wind, but neither of those factors had anything to do with me making contact with that ball. But people do it all the time, blaming outside of them. But so it even takes me practice to be like, Heather, you really are going to blame the wind and that guy in the distance? So
yeah,
you're right.
And I love what you. Yeah, I think accountability. I want to highlight that and just speak into that real quick. I surround myself with accountability. So when I want to complain or I want to say that, I have everyone in my life that I surround me with, they're like, really? So tell me what part you played in that. What were you thinking? What was your energy like? What were your emotions like? And it's so refreshing to have people like that to remind you, it's a 2 millimeter shift. So you can do that with the golf ball, right? You're taking a little break, and then next thing you know, you're hopping on a coaching call. And if you're not golfing with the right person, or you don't have the discipline in your own mindset to shift that, have some fun with it and be like, oh, dang it, I totally created that. And then you hop on your next coaching call or whatever your next activity is. If you don't have a time to have that 2 millimeter shift or that pattern break or that awareness, you're going to bring that into the rest of your life. And then that's when people chalk up that I had a bad day. I call BS on that. No, you created a bad day.
Or was it a bad day or was it a bad moment?
Yes.
Event. Was it an event or was it the whole day? Yeah. Okay, so then question for you. What is one key takeaway you want listeners to get from this conversation?
I'd say the biggest takeaway is find a best practice approach for yourself and be very intentional and disciplined about managing your mind, managing your energy. So before you transition into any activity, and it's hard, guys, trust me, we know this, we've been practicing. It is a discipline. You have to do that just like you would when you're walking to the fridge and getting ice cream and you're on a diet, and talk yourself out of it. It's the exact same. So before you walk into any situation, a telephone call with a mom who triggers you, or a client meeting, or a presentation, or a relationship, a date, a difficult conversation, to let go an employee, whatever it might be, that you really transition and you have that power of the pause to really take your energy, worst case scenario, best case scenario, let them merge, and then spend some time with your mantras, with your manifestations. One that works really easily for me is like, universe, go in 5 minutes before me and help me show up as the best version of me. The other person show up as the best version of them. And I'm going to let go, and I'm just going to be fully, wholly present.
Yes, I love that for sure. Okay, so then to wrap up the interview, I have a couple rapid fire questions for you.
Sure.
Okay, the first one, what is a quote or motto that you live by?
A confused mind says no is my favorite quote. So it helps me to stay really, really clear and intentional and concise with my communication.
What you said, a confused mindset is no? Is that what
A
you said?
confused mind says no.
Oh, a confused
Mm-hmm.
mind says no. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes, very true. But what is a book you're currently reading or highly recommend?
Untamed by Glennon Melton Doyle is what I'm listening to. I highly recommend it. On Audible is one of the most amazing books. I'm actually in the process of listening to it for the second time this week.
So I've seen that come out, I think, pretty recently. Why is that
Yes.
such a why?
Well, it's her third book that she wrote. So this is the adult version of her, so to speak. It is a book all about how to manifest your energy, be really clear about that, and then show up unapologetically in the world, and really stop abandoning yourself.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
It's
Fi-
great.
Final question for you. What advice would you give your younger self?
Invest in coaching sooner. Do
Mm.
not, we're not meant to do this alone, and it is the greatest investment that you can make. And if you find a coach that doesn't resonate with you, don't buy into the story that coaching doesn't work. Keep going until you find your person. I currently have 3 coaches. I have for 20 years now, and I will live off of ramen before I give up coaching. I would not be where I am today without having somebody who's going to hold me accountable, who's going to shine the flashlight on my blind spots, and who's not going to let me give up on my dreams in spite of myself. It is the best money that you look at, you in the athletic world, in the celebrity world. It's everybody, anyone that you see, any interview, whether it be Super Soul Sunday or what have you, they were all going to say they didn't get to where they were by surrounding themselves with a bunch of cheerleaders who told them they were great. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You
Yeah.
need somebody who is 2, 4, 5, 10, 12 steps ahead of you, and they have the courage to call you on your stuff and hold you accountable to what you say you really, really want in this life, while managing your mindset in addition to your actions and behaviors.
Yes, well said. Molly, thank you so much for joining me today and having this conversation.
Oh, it was so fun. Thank you.